Welcome to the Stoic Responder Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Healy. As a special agent who spent more than 15 years conducting large-scale fraud, money laundering, and public corruption investigations, Stoic philosophy provided a mindset edge that became the foundation of my professional success. My mission today is to share those same ancient mindset lessons with you so that you can turn obstacles into opportunities and adversity into advantage. Time to muster up. All right, welcome back to the Stoic Responder Podcast, everyone. This is episode 39, Bear the Trials. The quote I'm going to start you out with here is from Seneca. To bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden. Now, if you listen to yesterday's episode where I was talking about the importance of keeping a thought journal, of catching these irrational and negative thoughts as they enter your mind, trying to make a note of them, trying to understand where they're coming from, and then replacing them with a more balanced and realistic thought, that I think is kind of where this is going. This is the same sort of advice. Now, that was from yesterday's advice was from Marcus Aurelius. He was talking about stop allowing your mind to be a slave, stop allowing it to be jerked around by selfish impulses. What I'm talking about here is keeping that mind calm. And it's a similar thing. What we're talking about really is that inner citadel, that Stoic concept of maintaining control over that which we do control. It's that whole idea, and I think it comes from Publius Serious, who says, if you would rule a mighty kingdom, first rule over yourself, right? The idea that we must have a strong mind, first and foremost, if we're going to accomplish anything, that we must control our thoughts, we must control our emotions, we must have a strong mind in order to get anything done. So let me give you some examples of this. But first, let me give you a quick shout out to two of our, not sponsors, but one is a organization that I like to sing the praises of because they are doing so much for our first responder community. That, of course, is the Overwatch Collective. If you're not familiar with the Overwatch Collective, it is a nonprofit and podcast funding therapy sessions and supporting mental health services among first responders, military, and their families. They have an awesome app. If you want to download their app, you can get access to different podcasts on there. You can get access to different programs, different group chats with other first responders. They also, again, they fund therapy sessions, completely free therapy sessions for first responders who need them, people who are experiencing and dealing with trauma on a daily basis and want to have some support, and they want to have that be anonymous. They don't want to have to go through their police department. They don't want to have to go through the fire station that they work at. They don't want their personal business, their mental health and mental wellness being subject to all of the stuff that happens, that whole whisper network that occurs when somebody says, I need some help. These guys are doing a huge service for us by providing therapy sessions for free and anonymously for first responders who need them. And believe me, plenty of first responders need them. So do me a favor and go support the Overwatch Collective. Check out the overwatchcollective.com. You can follow them on social media. You can check out their podcast. You can go buy some of their sweet gear, like the shirt that I'm wearing today, so that you can promote their mission. One more is one less. One other thing I wanted to mention is we got ourselves a great discount code for guys who are out there wanting to become fitter, wanting to become better runners, wanting to make sure, like me, that in your 40s, as you are continuing to work out and continuing to stay fit, that you're not wasting the effort. Those of you who are not using a heart rate monitor, like I use one on my watch here, I use one on my ring. I track my heart rate all day. I track it as I sleep. I track it all the time. But if you guys are not using a heart rate monitor, my good friend Dan Hickman, shout out to Dan. He's at Daniel Jason Hickman on Instagram. He's also the host of the Competitive Edge podcast. Dan's a father. He's an entrepreneur. He's a hybrid athlete, but he is also a MyZone ambassador, and he offered us a discount code to get a heart rate monitor, a MyZone heart rate monitor, to help you maximize your training. If you're not using a heart monitor to train, you're missing out on critical data, and through accurate heart rate training and real-time feedback, all effort counts. So be sure to check out the show notes. You can save $60 on a MyZone heart rate monitor with the discount code that our good friend Dan is sharing with this audience. So getting into today's episode, folks, as I said, the episode name is Bear the Trials, and the quote that we shared, to bear the trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden, from Seneca. So it never fails, right? Some likable person goes viral. We see this all the time. Maybe they have a funny or a cute meme or some social media thing. This recently happened there was this, I'm not even going to say it because it's inappropriate for the audience, but there was a girl who recently went viral on social media for making a kind of a funny statement that was everywhere you looked a couple of weeks ago, and it threw her to the height of social media fame. This stuff happens, right? But as soon as that happens, within hours, people start digging through the old posts of that person who just went viral, and they start looking for something controversial to tar them with. This is a 21st century journalist sort of just evil thing that happens. I recall this happening a couple of I think it was maybe a couple of years ago now, that some guy made a whole bunch. He went viral because of something to do with like a beer brand, like Natty Light or something like that. And he made all this money from this viral post, and he ended up donating it all to childhood cancer research. But in the course of him going viral for this kind of cute or funny like tweet that he sent out, some reporter in the town that he lived in started digging into this guy's past social media use, and he found that he had made some inappropriate comments, as most kids do at some point, especially if they grew up on social media. You're 15, 16 years old sending out tweets. Inevitably, you're going to say something dumb or stupid that's going to come back and bite you in the butt 10 years later, if God forbid you become a famous athlete or you become a viral meme. And that's exactly what happened here. And this is sort of illustrated, because this reporter went out and he, dug up all these, this person's personal history and turned that into the story. And there was backlash, and the reporter got dragged across the coals for this. But this is kind of the cycle of how this happens, right? People start looking up controversial stuff to tar you with, to bring you down a peg. And this is kind of like illustrated by this. There's a viral tweet a few years ago by an Australian cartoonist named Ben Ward. This is like 2015, 2016. And it describes this phenomenon perfectly. In the tweet, Ward wrote, "The whole internet loves Milkshake Duck, a lovely duck that drinks milkshakes." 5 seconds later, "We regret to inform you the duck is racist." It's kind of like that, right? Internet fame is fickle. It's unpredictable. And the online world can both be a platform for celebration, a platform for advanced growth, a platform for growing a business, but also can put a harsh spotlight on you that can reveal flaws and controversies. That's why so many police aren't really on social media. I wasn't really on social media until the end of my career. My wife has built an entire business on the back of social media marketing, on the back of growing a personal brand that is built around her life as a mother, as a special needs mom, as an athlete. And all of that has influenced her brand. And I've watched her go through some of this too, where she posts something online. We went through it just a month or so ago. She posted something that got well over 1 million views, something like 2 million views on Instagram, about accessibility issues at Disney World. And it brought in people supporting her, but it also brought in people calling her a bad mother, and people calling her a white savior, and people calling her all sorts of names, because we happen to be the parents of 2 adopted children that don't really look like us. These things can take personal difficulties. They can blow them up. They can take personal flaws and blow them up, right? But that's true of life in general. We will face all sorts of trials and challenges. Kind of the social media is the microcosm of life in general, right? We can face all sorts of trials and challenges. It can be personal difficulties. It can be external setbacks. It can be unexpected crises. They're going to happen. They're going to blow up in our faces. 5 seconds after, sometimes something good happens, something bad will happen. We regret to inform you the duck is racist. It's a tongue-in-cheek and sort of funny way to look at this phenomenon of social media fame and the takedown attempts that come with it. But doesn't that happen in life too? A couple of years ago, my wife's business crossed a significant milestone 24 hours before her father passed away. So she has her first ever $1 million year in her business, and 24 hours later, her father passes away. These trials and challenges are often coupled with our greatest victories, right? These personal difficulties and setbacks often, and unexpected crises often follow quickly on the heels of some of our greatest moments. And Seneca's emphasizing that when he puts this quote out there. Again, let me read it to you. "To bear the trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden," right? In other words, the ocean is going to be wavy, and sometimes you're at the top of the wave, and sometimes you're in the trenches. Sometimes you're below it as it's crashing upon you. But ultimately, you will end up back at the top and back in the bottom. It's going to come and go like that. You see, it's an inevitable part of the human experience, and avoiding the waves is not an option. Attempting to do so only leads to further suffering, right? It only leads us to be stuck in the riptide. And emotional responses to adversity, often it intensifies the experience. It just makes it worse. It makes the suck even worse. So what do we do? What is Seneca suggesting that we do? He's suggesting that we must endeavor to maintain a calm mind, whether we're at the top of the wave or the bottom, whether we're on the high or the low, whether we're experiencing the thrill or the rush of fame and fortune, or the crash of the blowback that comes from it. When we react with fear, when we react with anger, when we react with anxiety, when we react with despair, we add a heavy burden to an already challenging situation, right? When we act like being at the top of the mountain is where we will always be, when we act elated, when we act overexcited, we do the same thing. We cannot let our emotions take us up and down. We have to maintain a calm mind that is and a regulated nervous system that can deal with those crashing waves for what they are. Just a temporary thing that will go away with time. We will be up, we will be down. And in the end, there's going to be up, there's going to be down. Throughout, up, down, up, down. We have to maintain that calm mind throughout it all. That is how we rob difficulties of their strength. By treating those two imposters, and I forget who said this, but we must treat those two imposters the same, right? Whether it is good fortune, whether it is failure, we must treat those two imposters exactly the same. Let me leave you with a journal prompt here. I think this is a good one that Seneca would appreciate. Will an emotional response to the problems I face make them better or make them worse? And I would add this too. Will an emotional response to my winning, not my problems, but to my achievements, will it make them better or worse, right? We can have that momentary sense of elation when something goes right. We can have that momentary sense of dread or fear or sadness when something goes wrong. That is natural. The key is coming back to that well-regulated emotional state as quickly as possible, finding that balance as quickly as possible so that we do not pile on that heavy burden, so that we not irrationally expect that it's always going to be this way, good or bad. We need to stay at that baseline as often as we can. We need to, as Seneca says, bear trials with a calm mind in order to rob misfortune of its strength and burden. Folks, that's what I got for you today. Again, it is Wednesday. Get out there, live your lives with valor. We'll see you tomorrow. Until next time, you are out of roll. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, rate, and share this podcast so that we can spread the benefits of Stoicism to other first responders. It will only take you a few moments, but it can help us tremendously. Until next time, out of roll.